started as one quiet moment in a hallway. A little girl with pale cheeks and pressed lips trying her hardest not to cry, and a mother who noticed everything. What happened next would shift the dynamics inside the royal family in ways no press release would ever capture. The weekend had been arranged weeks in advance, a private spring luncheon at Windsor, tied to one of Queen Consort Camilla's charitable causes. These events were standard fare on the royal calendar, formal enough to require preparation, casual enough to feel like family time. Multiple generations under one ancient roof, not always comfortable, but always managed. Princess Catherine had attended dozens of these gatherings. She knew how to move through them, smile through the friction, and keep things smooth. But that particular Saturday, something kept pulling at her attention. Charlotte was off. Not difficult, not emotional, just absent from herself. The girl who usually had something to say about everything was quiet in a way that didn't feel like shyness. It felt like retreat. Catherine had settled her daughter into the children's salon alongside a group of young royal cousins, a side room, afternoon tea, the expected level of polite behavior. She kissed Charlotte's forehead, looked back once, and joined the adults. Nothing seemed wrong yet. 45 minutes later, everything did. Catherine was mid-conversation with a senior courtier when she caught movement in her peripheral vision. Charlotte was crossing the corridor outside an open doorway. She wasn't crying, her face was composed, but her color had drained and her mouth was drawn into a tight, careful line, the expression of a child holding something painful very still inside. Catherine excused herself without finishing her sentence. She found Charlotte at the far end of the hallway, near a service entrance, hands folded in front of her, staring at the floor. What happened? Nothing, Mummy. Catherine crouched down to her level. I know when something isn't right. Talk to me. Charlotte's voice came out barely above a whisper. Granny Camilla had told her she was showing off, told her not to speak unless she was spoken to. The offense, answering a question during a guessing game with her cousins. Catherine didn't react with anger. She pulled Charlotte close and held on. But something inside her had just recalibrated. She had always given Camilla the benefit of the doubt. Their relationship was complicated by nature, a blended family carried on the world stage, held together by duty and diplomacy. Catherine had absorbed small moments before, a dismissive tone here, a pointed glance there. She had filed them away and moved forward, because that's what the role required. But she had never considered that those moments would reach her children. That assumption was gone. The rest of the afternoon confirmed what Catherine feared wasn't a single incident. During a later gathering around the refreshment table, Charlotte reached for a second scone. Camilla glanced over, smiled thinly, and said, within earshot of several people, "Perhaps one is enough, darling. We don't want to seem greedy, do we?" Catherine heard it, she marked it, she said nothing yet. That evening, in the main sitting room, the children had been allowed in before being taken upstairs. Charlotte sat quietly by the fireplace, flipping through a book. Then, politely, she asked Camilla if she might play the piano for a bit. Quietly, she said, just for a little while. Camilla's response was light in tone and sharp in effect. "That's not really necessary, is it? Let the adults enjoy some peace. Sit still like a proper young lady." Charlotte's cheeks went red. She closed the book, folded her hands, shrank. Catherine was standing just meters away. Their eyes met, hers and Camilla's, for exactly 1 second before Camilla looked elsewhere. The room continued as if nothing had happened. But something had. That night, Catherine sat on the edge of Charlotte's bed and asked her gently if she'd felt upset during the day. Charlotte thought carefully, then said, "Granny Camilla doesn't like it when I talk too much." A 7-year-old had already concluded this, had already adjusted herself around it. Catherine kissed her goodnight, walked down the hall, and told William everything. No dramatics, just facts, repeated calmly, one by one. When she finished, his jaw was set. "We don't let this go," Catherine said. "We handle it the right way," he replied, "but we handle it." The following weekend, a private dinner at Highgrove. Charles had arranged a relaxed family evening, a chance to reconnect before an upcoming tour. Catherine arrived with William, and Charlotte came briefly to greet her grandfather before bed. The little girl walked in, found Camilla seated by the fire, and said pleasantly, "Good evening, Granny." Camilla barely turned. "Are you sure you're not too tired to be here?" It landed in the room like something dropped. Catherine's expression shifted. The polite composure she had worn walking in dissolved, not into anger, but into something quieter and more deliberate. She turned to Charlotte, gave her a small nod, and said softly, "Say goodnight to Grandpa and head up with Anna." The door clicked shut behind Charlotte. Camilla sat back and remarked, almost to herself, "Well, she's quite sensitive, isn't she?" William went still. Catherine stepped forward. "She's not too sensitive. She's a child, and she deserves to be spoken to with kindness." "I didn't mean it harshly. I was only surprised she was still up." "This isn't about tonight," Catherine said. Her voice was even, unhurried. "I've watched this happen repeatedly. She has too, and I won't keep standing by." Charles attempted to redirect the conversation. Catherine didn't let him. "If it had been once, we wouldn't be here. But it isn't once, it's a pattern, and I will not allow my daughter to be made to feel lesser by anyone." Camilla looked to William for backup. He gave none. "We're asking for one thing," he said. "Basic respect. Charlotte hasn't done anything that warrants this treatment." Camilla reached for her glass. "You're both taking this far too seriously. Children bounce back." "Children also remember," Catherine replied, "especially the way the people who were supposed to love them made them feel." There was no shouting, no storm, just a line drawn with absolute clarity. Catherine left the room. William followed. Upstairs, she sat beside Charlotte's sleeping form and held her hand in the quiet. "You did nothing wrong today," she whispered. "You were kind and polite, and that is everything I will ever ask of you." She wasn't trying to erase the moment. She was making sure her daughter would remember a different one instead. In the days that followed, Camilla did not apologize, but she did grow quiet. Charlotte's school recital at Lambrook was kept to immediate family only. The palace issued a vague statement about scheduling. Those inside knew what it meant. The public saw the usual stream of coordinated photographs: unity, warmth, continuity. Behind that image, distance had settled in. Not dramatic, not announced, just present, the way all real consequences are. Then came Balmoral. Summer at the Scottish estate was tradition, a chance for the family to step back from ceremony and simply exist together. Catherine agreed to come. She brought all 3 children, but she had also told William, quietly and firmly, that Charlotte would not be left alone near Camilla, not again. The first few days were peaceful. Long walks through open hills, Charlotte racing through fields with her brothers, the color returning to her cheeks, laughter coming easier. Catherine watched her daughter slowly become herself again and breathed. Then came the afternoon Catherine stepped away for the first time. William was fishing with Charles, the children were in the garden with staff, Catherine was in the drawing room 15 minutes into a conversation with a family aide, when a household member leaned close and mentioned almost casually that Princess Charlotte was in the sunroom with Her Majesty. Catherine was moving before the sentence finished. She approached the sunroom quietly. Through the door she heard 2 voices. Camilla was speaking. "We don't need to talk over others, Charlotte. It's important to listen. Your mother sometimes forgets that herself." Silence from Charlotte. Catherine opened the door. Camilla looked up.
"Spoke of
"There you
their
are,"
plans
she said
for the
simply,
royal cellars,
looking at her daughter.
and their
"I was coming to
influence
find you." Charlotte arose immediately and moved to her mother's side. "I was just having a quiet word with her," Camilla said, her tone managed. "I heard," Catherine replied. "She's a child," Catherine said, "and she doesn't need to be corrected every time she opens her mouth." Camilla straightened. "I've raised children. I recognize when a girl needs a bit of guidance." "She's growing up beautifully," Catherine said, "without any help diminishing her confidence. I'd appreciate that being left intact." She didn't wait for a response. She took Charlotte's hand and walked out. In the hallway, she knelt beside her daughter. "You did nothing wrong today," she said. "You were kind and polite, and that is everything I will ever ask of you." She wasn't trying to erase the moment. She was making sure her daughter would remember a different one instead. The remainder of the Balmoral stay passed without incident. Camilla kept a noticeable distance at meals. She offered no commentary on the children's behavior, their clothes, their noise. The staff noticed.
Charles noticed. No one said anything. They didn't have to. Catherine hadn't raised her voice once. She hadn't threatened or accused. She had simply refused to pretend. And in a world where pretending had always been the default, that refusal carried enormous weight. The summer ended with the standard photographs, family arranged on stone steps, waving, smiling, everything that the world expected to see. But the woman in those photos had changed something. She had decided somewhere between Windsor and Balmoral and every quiet hallway in between that there were things more important than keeping peace with the wrong people. Her daughter would know her own worth, and no title in the world outranked that. What would you have done in Catherine's position? Do you think a line was crossed, or was this simply a collision between two very different women? Drop your thoughts below, and if this story moved you, like, share, and subscribe for more. The next video is already waiting for you on screen.